Hi, I'm Chandler Kirkhart, and this is an addendum to Lunch in the Library's Ghost Stories at Seward County Community College. Trinchera Vista. I'm not here to sway faith, preach religion, or blow smoke in your face. The truth is, I don't know what to believe myself. I don't claim to believe the dead walk the earth as spirits waiting to be judged, nor do I claim ghosts simply to be demons and angels out of hiding. I just don't know. But I do know that whatever happened on the 3rd of July, 1997, provoked something. Something that still has a resounding presence. Whether you believe the following story or not, it doesn't matter. However, if you find it to be an exaggeration, melodramatic, or just straight up bullcrap, I would much rather you write me off as crazy than as a liar. I firmly believe in the happenings of this story, though no choice was ever offered to me. However, you are free to believe in anything you wish. All I ask is that you keep your mind open to a possibility. My great-grandfather, Rufus King, was an avid gambler. His game of choice was 21 and he never lost. Not because he was lucky by any means. The simple fact was that he was a mathematical genius. In short, great-grandpa Rufus counted cards. People would pay him to gamble their money in various poker tournaments. He did so well that after he died, my great-grandmother Hazel used the gambling earnings to buy our family an old log cabin in Cachira, Colorado, from a man of the name Unthug. The Unthugs owned the cabin for many years prior to selling it to my family in 1963. Mr. Unthug acquired the cabin from an unknown family prior to 1910. Needless to say, my family cabin has seen much life go in and out of its doors. It watches my family grow up, and has done so throughout the many years we've possessed it. Lord knows I grew to love visiting the small log cabin at the base of the mountains. It wasn't until the 3rd of July 1997 that I came face to face with the girl in the hallway. Now there's only one reason an 8-year-old will get out of bed in the middle of the night, because they have to pee. My brother, cousins, and I were all sleeping on the floor next to the stone fireplace in the living room that night. I slept closest to the fireplace, which was the furthest from the bathroom and the bedrooms. After allowing my eyes to adjust to the darkness, I carefully left my warm sleeping bag, stepped carefully over my brother and cousins who were sleeping soundly. I made my way to the oval rug onto the cold hardwood flooring. My family cabin is anything but soundproof. If someone or something were to walk through the tall grass outside, you would know. The constant low rush of the small brook, only a few yards away, could be heard through the cabin walls all through the night. If someone were to inhale ever so slightly in the far bedroom, whatever's walking outside in the tall grass would definitely hear the exhale. Yet I didn't hear the little girl waiting for me in the hallway. I made my way into the cold hardwood floor and grabbed onto the opening of the hallway. To my right, the bedroom where my Uncle Brent and future Aunt Jan slept. To my left would be the bathroom, and then past that, the bedroom where my parents were sleeping, the far bedroom. Hands clenched to the door frame of the hallway entrance, I pulled myself left. I was now facing the latched wooden door of my parents' bedroom, and in 2 short steps I would be clear to open the bathroom door to my right. But I didn't make it 2 more steps. My eyes strained to see through the darkness. I stared towards the open bedroom door. My foot had barely risen to take the first step towards the bathroom door, a step that in the next moment would turn into a full stride in the opposite direction. I tried, but I couldn't scream. In that split second, a pale little girl with long, straight, dark hair appeared in front of me, standing only inches from my face. She gave me the most disturbingly transparent smile, followed by a look of curiosity. "Why are you here?" is what it looked like. I ran. I hurtled over my cousins and brothers, sliding into my sleeping bag, not looking over my shoulder to see if she was at my neck or grabbing at my ankles. I quickly flung my sleeping bag over my head to pray to God that I wouldn't hear her crawling closer or hear her breathing in my ear. Why I thought she could breathe is beyond me. I didn't know what would be worse, if she started whispering in my ear or laughing in my face. I couldn't go back to sleep. I waited and I waited, praying to God that she was gone. I couldn't breathe because I refused to allow anything, including oxygen, into my sleeping bag, now my makeshift fortress. Yet nothing happened. It wasn't until my mother woke up the next morning to make coffee that I told her about the little girl and that I had had an accident. She didn't believe me. Who would believe an 8-year-old with night terrors? Well, that next Christmas, everything changed when friends of the family visited our little cabin. Now, everyone believes. It was a honeymoon retreat to the beautiful snowy-covered Rockies for the newly wedded couple. They asked my family if they could use the old cabin for a peaceful, inexpensive lovers' retreat. They didn't even last a day. The story told at Christmas is as follows. They were only there a few short hours when the wife started to hear things. The husband insisted that he could hear nothing, but she stood her ground. After further troublesome earfuls of God knows what, she insisted that they leave immediately. He insisted that it must have been coming from outside, like it was a bear. But she told him sternly, no, it's coming from the bedroom. He knew she wouldn't calm down enough to enjoy the time alone, so he decided to pack everything that they had just unpacked, and it was all in that bedroom. Which bedroom? They didn't tell me. But after you'll hear the story, I'm quite certain it was the far bedroom. His wife wouldn't leave the kitchen. The wife instructed her husband to get all the bags from the room and bring them to the car. He had 2 bags and a battery-operated lantern left to grab, is what they told me. One hand holding the lantern and the other holding one bag. He loaded them into the car and he went back to grab the last bag. When he walked into the bedroom, there it was, the lantern that he'd just put into the car, turned on, sitting in the middle of the bed. He left everything and came back the next day to get it. A year later, I dreamt I was sitting on the bridge behind my cabin, dangling my feet, looking out into the Kachira streams. Everything looked to be in its place, except for the little girl. She stood 40 yards away in the distance, just watching me. She didn't have a smile or fangs or even the slightest bit of emotion. The little girl only stood watching, almost curious, as to ask, "Why are you here?" It was the same look she had given me in the hallway 1 year previous. Another year went by before I had the second dream. I sat at the same bridge, dangling my feet by the same river, but things were different this time. The trees, grass, the buildings seemed as though they were dying or beginning to rot. I looked up the river to see the little girl, 20 yards away, with the same serious look on her face as she watched me. The next year, the grass was dead. The trees were rotting, the buildings were rubble, and the logs were decomposing. As I stood at the dried-up creek, looking up at the little girl standing at the foot of the creek, just watching. Just a little side story. When I turned 19, I visited the cabin with my grandpa, and one night I had my laptop sitting on my lap, and I was writing God knows what, but I remember one word that I wrote, and it was closet. I was in the far bedroom. When I wrote the word closet, the closet to the foot of the bed to the right swung open. I don't mean creaked open, I mean swung open. And as a 19-year-old, I acted like an 8-year-old and put the covers over my head and hoped that I could go to sleep. But each year the dreams got worse. The summer I turned 21, she started to speak. She hadn't done that before. You've seen the horror movies where the monster has a high-pitched voice and a low-pitched voice, and they're meshed together. It sounds really creepy. And that wasn't like that. Hers was both a panicked rush and at the same time slow as molasses. I can't describe it better than that. She said, "If you only knew." The next year I turned 22 years old, and I decided I was going to get a job out there, a place called the Dog Bar. My best friend and I were going to go out there, and things fell through, and it was just me, staying in the cabin alone the entire summer. At this point, I'd already had plenty of sightings, and I decided I was going to keep a log. So the following times and the following dates were written as they happened. Some of them I didn't think were any activities. I went back later on and put them in after the full summer was over, seeing them as what they were. Day 1, June 14th, 2011. Approximately 1 a.m. I heard footsteps in the kitchen. To be more specific, they were walking in towards the kitchen. And when I say footsteps, I don't mean raccoons or a big bear or even someone my age breaking in. I mean a little child, barefoot, really quickly, scurrying across the floor. I was in pretty good shape at that point. I thought, whoever or whatever's in here, my door's shut. If they want anything, I got a huge guitar sitting next to me and I can deal with it. But I went back to sleep, didn't think anything else of it. Day 2, approximately 10 p.m., the kitchen cabinets opened themselves up. There was a safety latch. Now how that worked was I walked into the cabin that day and I said, "Honey, I'm home," just to help my nerves. And I came back from work at around 10 o'clock and they were all opened up. They had safety latches on them. And so I thought maybe someone was in here playing a joke, but the doors were locked and no one had a key. Thought nothing of it. Day 5, approximately 12:30 p.m., I was lying in bed, and I was thinking to myself, maybe I'm just crazy. Maybe I'm overreacting with this. And so I started to talk to her. I was just laying there, and I thought, we're going to be here this whole summer, so I need to know if I'm crazy or if you're actually here. So if you are, move something. As soon as I did, those cabinet doors opened up again. I heard it creak open. Got off the bed, walked into the kitchen, and at that point in the horror stories that you watch, you think, "Get out of the house." I looked at it, and as a joking matter, I went, "Yeah, I like breakfast at 7 o'clock since you can move stuff, you can cook for me, and I walked out. That was it. What I didn't realize was that I had stopped eating. 2 weeks went by, living and working there, and I'd worked double shifts, and I just wasn't eating. I'd eat a bite, maybe. 2 weeks, I lost almost 15 pounds. Went home for the country stampede, and as soon as I left the county, I felt great. I felt hungry. So I remember eating more food than I had ever imagined. But then I had to come back after the weekend was over. And this is what happened. I had my annual dream. There are times at night when you wake up for no apparent reason. Times that we open our eyes and don't know where we are, who's in the room with us. And then we suddenly realize everything. What happened to me on June 27th, 2011 was one of those moments shot to hell. I woke from a dream, not knowing where I was, opened my eyes, and looked around the room. I could smell and hear rushing water. I could feel wind of an open window blowing cool at my feet. And after a few seconds, I realized I was back at my cabin. But what I hadn't realized quite yet was who I had my arm around. Then the here and now gripped my lungs, and I had come to the cabin alone. There should not be someone in this bed with me. My mind screamed to my consciousness that. I opened my eyes. She had long, straight, dark hair. I slowly moved over just a bit to see who it was, and she rolled over. Why are you here? The face. The same face I'd seen for years. Again, this close to my face. I couldn't get out of there fast enough. I bolted out of bed and tried to run. It was like running through knee-deep water. I wasn't getting away fast enough. I remember crawling into my car in the driveway. I threw the car in reverse and peeled out, and then I woke. Cold sweat, breathing heavy. Thank God it was just a dream, right? I pulled the covers off, and my feet were muddy. I remember in that moment being scared. Yeah, I'd had dreams plenty of years before, plenty of times before. I'd even seen her, but nothing like that, nothing physical. She had never reached out to me like that or made me do anything, like drive at night. So I got out of bed slowly and I looked down, and there were mud prints walking back to the bed. I walk out through the kitchen, back door to see my car, and I was hoping I would see my car. There it was. But you could see where I'd peeled out and took off down the drive to God knows where. And to this day, I have no idea where I slept drove to. Day 16 at the cabin, approximately 2 a.m. I sat in my parked Camaro along the highway of legends, too scared to go back to the cabin. The previous night had been too much. She had crossed a line that she never should have, and I was scared that she was going to try to get closer. I sat there trying to call my friend Zach back in Kansas. He'll tell you that I left him a pretty bad voicemail. It would have scared any good friend. I wanted him to know that I was not all right, that something was trying to reach me, and that if it could make me get up in the middle of the night and drive my car while sleeping, who knows what it could make me do. In the past 14 years I had experienced a little girl at my cabin. I never once asked for spiritual help. Not because I wasn't religious. On the contrary, I am a man of faith, but I'm also a man of curiosity, which is exactly why I never asked God to intervene until then. I got out of my Camaro, took a few short steps onto the highway, and looked out into the pitch Colorado night and pleaded with him, reciting the only Bible verse that I really knew off the top of my head that would help me, maybe help me. God, all those who call on the name of the Lord shall be saved. And I'm definitely calling for your safety. Then I reluctantly crawled back into my car and drove back to that cabin. The cabin was a quiet that screams in your ear. It was the kind of quiet right before the door where the floor begins to creak. Or at least that was the kind of impression it left on me the night before. I knew that I had to trust that all would be well, so I decided that since I couldn't rightly sleep, I put on a movie to break the disturbing silence. I sat in the living room with my back towards the far bedroom, trying to watch Jurassic Park. I know, great idea. The opening scene had barely finished when I heard the floor creak behind me. When I say floor creak, I don't mean I'm talking about the first night where I heard the pitter-patter going to the kitchen. But this time, it was from the hallway to right behind me. I freaked. I zoned in to the sound. I couldn't even hear the TV anymore. And I just remember instantly reciting Romans 10:14, 10:13. Does the numbers actually matter? Is God even going to listen to me if I get the numbers wrong? And I just called out. By the time I opened my eyes, I slowly gathered myself to turn around to see what was there. Nothing. The house didn't feel so bad anymore. That was the last night that I felt her in the cabin that summer. Is she truly gone? I don't know. As I said before, each year the dreams get darker. If you only knew she said those years ago. Every once in a while, I feel curiosity creeping back. Once again, left alone with unanswered questions. What if that's what she wanted all along? Thank you.